Physics is the study of the world around us, and in order to study it and make quantitative statements about the world around us, we need to be able to measure what we find and what we're using. So when we measure things, there's many different ways that we can measure it. There's many different tools, and there's many different units that we can use. We can measure all kinds of things. We can measure maybe the length between two places, or the height or the width. Any kind of length measurement. We're used to using the English system. An English system has several different units. We might talk inches, we might talk feet, miles, yards, lots of different ways to measure. With the metric system, however, it's just very simply the meter. Okay, very simple. Hang on to that for a second. With time, we use seconds, minutes, days, hours, same thing in the metric. That doesn't change. The time doesn't change much with metric system. For mass, how much matter something has in it, with the English system, we'll tend to talk about how many ounces, maybe pounds, but with metric system, very simply, the gram. And finally, for volume, there's lots of measurements for volume. If you've ever been in your kitchen and looked at all the different tools, there's teaspoons and tablespoons, there's cups and quarts and gallons. Lots of different ways to measure the volume that something takes up. But in the metric system, it's very simply the liter. Now, we use the metric system in science, even though we grew up with the English system, for two reasons. One, because it's so much simpler. You notice with the metric system, there is one word that means how long something is. There is one word for time. There's one for mass and one for volume. You don't have all these different words to learn. And two is how the measurement system is based. So how many inches are in a foot? There's 12. How many feet are in a yard? There's 3. So 12 of this, 3 of that. There's 5,280 feet in a mile. That's a big number. How many yards are in a mile? Well, it takes a 5,280 divided by 3. How many ounces are in a pound? Well, it's 12. And then you got this whole, is it fluid ounces or is it weight ounces? I don't know. Then you've got how many teaspoons are in a cup, how many cups are in a pint, how many pints are in a quart, how many quarts are in a gallon. There's like 8 of this and 12 of this, and it gets crazy. It gets very confusing. With the metric system, if we want to talk about something bigger or something smaller, like the amount of vanilla that we put in a chocolate chip recipe, a liter would be too much. We'd need a smaller measurement. So instead of using liter, we might talk about a smaller measurement of liter, maybe a centiliter or milliliter, by putting a prefix out in front. If we want to talk about how far it is from here to Houston, a meter, remember the meter sticks that we use in lab, a meter is going to be way too small. We're going to need something bigger, so maybe we'll use a kilometer, which is a much bigger thing. So the metric system has a whole set of prefixes that go in front of these very simple words, and those prefixes just change the scale of the word that we're talking about. So a kilometer would be, the distance between houses. A millimeter might be the, spacing between these lines on the paper. Much smaller measurement, and everything in between. So these are the prefixes that we use most commonly. There's actually tons on either side to make it bigger or smaller, but you might be familiar with mega, like a megabyte in your computer, or whatever, the Mega Millions jackpot. Anyway, mega, if you go beyond kilo 3 more times, then you hit mega. And then giga is 9 times beyond our unit, so 6 more times than kilo. On the other side, micro would be times 10 to the negative 6th, and nano would be times 10 to the negative 9. The stuff in between micro and milli, there are names for them, we just don't use them as often as we use these two. So converting between measurements, since everything is based on 10, 1 gram is 10 decigrams, and it's a tenth of a decagram. It's very simple to just move that decimal back and forth, and I'll show you how easy this is going to be. I've given us a couple of conversion practice things, and I've given myself a little simplified thing because I'm going to use it. These are all of our very simple prefixes here. And of course, you can add micro, nano, and you can add mega, gig on either side if you want to, but we're just going to make it real simple today. Let's say we've got 0.0024 kilometers, but we want to change that into a smaller measurement so we don't have all these zeros at the beginning. We want to change it to centimeters. So in order to convert, what I like to do is imagine a little man standing here on the kilo prefix, and he wants to go down here to the centa. That's his object. He wants to go down here. So he's going to hop, like these are little stepping stones, to hecto, not done yet. Deca, not done yet. Don't forget our base unit right there. Keep going to deci, and then here we are at centi. This is where he wants to be. Now, how many times did he have to hop? He hopped once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. In which direction did he go? He went to the right. So 5 times to the right, we're going to take our little decimal, and this becomes our little man. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to the right, and you see we kind of dug a hole here. How do we fill the hole up? Put a 0. Okay. These can go away. They're not useful anymore. So our answer is 240 centimeters. Okay. Simple, right? It works the same way going the opposite direction. This time we want to say go from milliliters over to regular liters. So here's our little guy here this time. He's starting at milli. He wants to go over to centa. 1, 2, 3 to our base unit of liters. This U right here is our base unit. Meters, liters, grams, seconds, amps, volts, whatever. Okay. So he moved 1, 2, 3 times to the left. We're going to take that decimal and move 1, 2, 3 times to the right, to the left. And we have 11 liters as our final answer. Okay. It's very simple. It gets a little bit trickier when we have multiple units that we're working with, or when we're going from English to metric, which we're going to do in the next video. But I want you to practice with this a little bit, just hopping back and forth between your base units. A couple of things I noticed that could give some people some trouble. One thing is forgetting that base unit. I know some of us learned King Henry died drinking chocolate milk or something like that. You need to make sure that you have something in your little mnemonic that you're using. I like to remember King Henry danced until dawn came Monday, because that reminds me of like an all-weekend party, which is pretty, what is it, lit these days? Anyway, but it also keeps that word until in there. Maybe you could do King Henry died while drinking chocolate milk or something like that. But use that base unit in there, because some people, if they mess up by going straight from deci to deca. So I see that occasionally. I also see people counting the one that they're on. Remember, we're counting the jumps, not how many numbers or letters that you touch. So let's say this one we're going from milliliters to liters. Some people will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move their decimal 4 places. Be careful that you're only doing the movements, not the letters. Okay, so those are the 2 things I see most often with students. If they get it wrong, that's usually one of the reasons why they've gotten it wrong. Other than that, pretty simple. So practice with that a little bit, and then we'll step it up to the 2-step conversion.